Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into my channel Sew with Zina. I know it's been a tremendous wait. The delay has been really long, but I will tell you guys, with the COVID-19, everything I planned out for these classes didn't happen as as I arranged, as I thought was gonna. I'm really sorry about the delay, and I noticed a lot of people have lost interest and backed out. That's okay, I do understand. It was a lot of things happening, issues that I had no control over. Yes, for example, my machine broke down. I couldn't get a mechanic to come and fix it because of the COVID, and everything is backed up. It's so backed up. So I hope you do understand. And if you're still interested in these classes, please don't give up. I'm gonna continue doing it as long as I don't encounter any more issues. We will have our lessons uploaded to the channel, and you can always come back. Even if after 5 years some people will still love to learn how to sew, so they can always come back and watch the videos. So today we are gonna be learning about seam allowances. I mentioned that a few times in between the weeks, that our next lesson was gonna be learning about seam allowance. What is seam allowance?
So seam allowance is the area between the stitching line and the edge of the fabric, between two pieces of materials being sewn together. I'm just doing a little demonstration here to show you what seam allowance is. This is a little sketch of the front of a blouse. So imagine if you're doing a pattern for a blouse. This you're gonna learn later on, and you draw out the pattern. That's a pattern, a blouse pattern, a front blouse pattern with all the measurements. So you have the neck there. So there I'm adding the seam allowance. You need seam allowance when you're sewing, just in case you need to alter that dress or that top or those pants. You need to always add seam allowance to your patterns before you sew. I know it sounds very it sounds like a strange word, and even the pattern drawing may confuse you, but don't be confused. This is all part of sewing. You need to get acquainted with these things. So that is the seam allowance. You have to, usually the hem part of the dress, the hem, you see the bottom of the blouse has a larger seam allowance, a bigger seam allowance than the shoulders and the sides. So yeah, I'm doing a skirt now. It's just the same thing I did. I'm just trying to draw a skirt to show you a seam allowance on that. So like we said before, seam allowance is the area between the fabric edge and the stitching line on two pieces of material being sewn together. Seam allowances can range from a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I'm very comfortable with 1/2 inch. So I'm just showing you two pieces of fabric here that we're gonna use. So if you can cut that out, you can cut out two pieces of fabric. It doesn't matter if you have your scraps. And there you have your ruler. If you have a ruler, you can measure 1/2 inch. You see, that's 1/2 inch right there. 1 inch. It all depends on what you want. You can do as big as an inch of seam allowance, depending on what you're sewing. But today I'm just gonna be demonstrating with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you can use your chalk or your pencil to mark. I hope you bought those things, even though they may not have they may not have been in the kit, our initial sewing kit, but this as well. If you can get these, you can use them to mark your fabric 1/2 inch on the wrong side. So when you're sewing two pieces of fabrics, you always sew right side to right side, so on the wrong side. So you see the line that I've drawn, the seam allowance on the edge of my fabric. It's very important, because without seam allowance, how are you gonna sew? If you sew on the edge, it's gonna fray and it's gonna break.
look at your machine as well. Even if you don't have a ruler, follow the stitch guidelines on your machine. If you look at your machine, you see, like we said before, it has 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/4, 3/8. You can follow that. Make sure you're at the edge of that fabric is resting on that seam allowance that you chose to use. Remember how we were learning how to sew straight stitches. So as you can see, I've sewn those 2 pieces of fabrics together, and it's with the help of seam allowance. It's perfect. You don't, the fabric, the fraying, you're far away from the edge, so if there's any fraying taking place, it won't affect the seams of whatever garment you're sewing. So if looking at your machine, you will find the stitching guidelines, the stitching guide, which is the seam allowance is written on that part of your machine, on your plate. So you have 1/4 inch, you have 1/2 inch, you have 3/4, and you have 1 inch. So today you remember how we used 1/2 inch, right? So if you see right there, it's the edge of my fabric is resting on the 1/2 inch guideline. Seam allowance it makes it so easy to sew because it helps guide your sewing smoothly. You don't have to worry about where the edge of your fabric is. I would really love to get some feedback about these lessons that I'm uploading, and with the ones that I'm also about to upload will be determined by, if you tell me what if you're gaining anything from this, because that's my main aim in teaching these lessons. I want you to learn something, even if it's 1 or 2 things that you learn from my classes. Let me know if you are learning. It helps me to prepare the next lesson, and to know how to present things to you in a way that you can easily understand. I really need your feedback on this. Please post a comment under the lesson and let me know. I won't mind if it's something that if it's a negative comment, it's still gonna help me, because I will use that to improve on this lesson. So please don't be shy. Let me know if you're gaining anything from this. So if you would like to learn anything special about sewing, send me a message, and I will prepare a lesson for you and post it, because I think sometimes it's better if I reach out to the people who want to learn how to sew and ask them exactly the problems they're having and what they really want to know, and I'll teach them. If you like my teaching method, if you want me to present it to you in another way, let me know as well. So for the next lesson, I would love to teach you how to take your measurements. Just a simple way of taking measurements, and then I will show you how to transfer those measurements onto a fabric and then sew a simple top. You already know about straight sewing, seam allowance. It will be easy for you to know how to sew a simple top. You can do it. You can definitely do it.